Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to Peter Watches TV, formerly known as Peter's Reality TV Recaps and Opinions, and better known as, and that's my opinion with Peter Mon, but we've changed all that because now we're covering all the shows over here, okay? We're covering all the shows. We're covering the Netflix top 10, the Netflix new releases, the Max top 10, the Max new releases, the Apple top 10, the Peacock top 10, the Paramount top 10, the Shudder top. Is there ever a Shudder top 10? I have every streaming app in the entire world. So below in the comment section, please recommend any show that you would like me to cover, okay? Now, I kind of made this decision probably just a couple days ago. I was going back and I'm watching all of the seasons of Survivor, right? And so I was like, should I review these as they come out? And I also have like shows that I've watched previous this year, like Apple's Neverfall and shows from like 4 years ago. I just got done watching Fear of the Walking Dead and The Walking Dead. And then I got done watching The Ones Who Live, Daryl Dixon, and Dead City, which are the spinoffs. And so I've got shows that I watched last year, things. And so I was like, should I go back and do older shows or should I just do the shows that just came out, right? And I know over here people seem to be more interested when I do like the documentary kind of specials. So Kevin Spacey Exposed or whatever it's called is next. It's up, I think it's on Max. I'm going to watch it next and that will be the next documentary. It's 2 parts. I think it's like an hour long. I will do that because a couple people have asked me to watch that. But if you guys have any shows that you want me to watch, please put it in the comment section below, old or new. I will watch them because I was like, I don't think anybody will be that interested in me covering like older shows, but I'm like, if I'm going to watch them, I'm going to cover them like when I get done watching them. So today I want to talk about season 1 of Survivor. Now, let me tell you about how this whole Survivor thing happened because it's all as a result of this channel right here. So when I started this channel last year, I asked people, I said, what shows, what reality, when it was specifically reality, it's not specifically reality anymore, but I asked people, I said, what reality shows do you want me to watch? People gave me all kinds of suggestions, right? And one of the suggestions that people asked me to watch was Survivor and Amazing Race. Back in the day, I used to watch, I watched Survivor the first season when it came out, like real time. Second season, I think I watched the first 5 or 10. And then it'd be like one here and there. I don't remember which ones I watched, to be honest with you. I knew that I'd watched like the first 3, but I don't really remember them that well. I mean, it's been like at this point, the first one came out in year 2, I think it was 2000 or 2000. So it's been 24 years since the first season came out. My ex and I the way that I started watching Amazing Race was with him. We would go, and this was before streaming services existed. We both worked Tuesday through Saturday. And so on a Saturday afternoon, we would go to Best Buy and we would buy box sets of DVDs for like an entire series. Well, we like to watch like reality series, like these were the only ones you could buy box sets of at the time. Project Runway, America's Next Top Model, Amazing Race. And so we would buy those and we would just stream them, binge them through the weekend. Long before you could binge watch a show, okay, on streaming services, we were doing it with DVDs, and we would love it. It's how we also started watching Lost, and then Lost became one of my favorite shows of life. So that's how I started watching Amazing Race, and I only watched maybe the first couple of seasons of it, and then I stopped watching it. So when people said I should watch these shows last year, I was like, okay, I'll come back. My friend Tanya Jean, she watches Amazing Race and Survivor every single year. Always talks about it, always talks about how good it is. So I start watching it, and they're talking about the new era of Survivor and all this kind of stuff, and I'm very confused. So 45 was the first season that I watched back again. That was last fall. And then I watched 46. Okay, so for those of you that don't know, it's a shorter season. It's I think it's 26 days now. It's called the new era of Survivor, and it's 26 days. They still split up into tribes and things like that, but it's 26 days, and it's a lot faster. Okay, so. And there's always all this building of alliances and things like that. So I watched it in the fall. I watched season 45 and I loved it, okay? And then I watched 46. It just ended a month ago and I loved it as well. And I'm like, are they putting these out every 2 months? Because I'm loving the Survivor. I am back into the Survivor thing, right? And so in the last episode, during the finale, they reference, I think it was during the reunion, they reference Carolyn. And the reason why a lot of them applied was Carolyn from season 44. And I'm like, who is this Carolyn they're talking about, right? So when I got done, I was like, my plan had been to go back and watch from season 1 all the way through. But I wanted to see who this Carolyn was. So I went back and I watched season 44, okay? And in it is where Carolyn makes the top 3. And Carolyn is a recovering addict and alcoholic like myself, and she's actually a drug counselor, and I worked in a treatment facility, and she reminds me of so many of my friends. I love her authenticity. I love her raw vulnerability. There's just so much about her that reminds me of me and my friends, and I just fell in love with Carolyn. Carolyn's going to be on this next season of Traitors, by the way. And I just fell in love with her, and I totally understood why people signed up for the show just because of her, because she just was unapologetically herself, right? But in the finale of that, they reference somebody that won on a previous season. So I'm like, okay, now I have to go back and watch this season. Well, what happens is throughout every season, they mention so-and-so from season 14, so-and-so from season this. And I'm like, okay, I need to go back and I need to start watching season 1 of Survivor, because they're going to keep on referencing people from the past and it's going to ruin the seasons, right? So I gotta stop this and I gotta go back to season 1, because I don't want it completely ruined for me. Even though, like, I knew Richard Hatch won, season 1 was still so fun to watch for me because I didn't remember the breakdown of it, okay? For those of you out there that are Survivor lovers, I am begging you, okay? It's on Paramount. Somebody asked me this last night. All the seasons are on Paramount. They have all the seasons of Survivor, all the seasons of Amazing Race are on Paramount. Go back, if you are a Survivor fan, a super fan, and have not watched season 1 for a while, go back and watch season 1. It is a completely different Survivor, okay? First of all, I think it's like 42 or 46 days or something like that. Season 2 is, I think it's, okay, season 1's a little short. I think it's 39 days. And season 2 is 42 days. It's exactly 6 weeks. So, because I'm now on season 2. I'm halfway through season 2. I think I remember who wins. But so, it's kind of like ruined for me already. As soon as I stepped off the plane, I was like, oh, Deb goes first. I remember that. I don't remember how I remember that, but I remember that. And then I was like, oh, I think this person wins. So, I'm watching season 1, and I'm like, you know, I watch so much reality TV. I love Big Brother. It's getting ready to come back on. Traitors, you know, all the shows. And all the reality shows, they always, I mean, even like House of Villains and The GOAT, I mean, they always talk about alliances. Big Brother would not exist if it wasn't for alliances, right? Secret alliances, second, fourth alliances. Okay. When you watch Survivor Season 1, I mean, it is literally like the template for reality shows. And I kind of had forgotten about that. I shared in here recently that I remember, like, talking to this friend of mine, this doctor that I worked with back in the day, and I remember when this show was coming out and we were talking about it, I didn't remember, like, how big of a deal it was at the time until I watched the reunion afterwards that was, like, with Bryant Gumbel from Good Morning America and all that kind of, I mean, it was huge. I can remember this now, like, looking back on it, how big of a deal Survivor was when it first came out, right? One of the things I will say is that some of the language that was used on there, some of the things that happened on the show in there, I think today, those people would be kicked off the show. I don't think it would happen today. I think, like, it was a different world of Survivor. It just is, you know, it's very interesting to me, some of the language that they use, and the comments that are made about women on the show by some of the men. I mean, those things would not be allowed today on reality TV, right? But Richard Hatch, who ends up winning the show, which, interestingly, so many people don't believe that he should win the show. It comes down to him and Kelly Wiggleston at the end. Now, she's won 3 immunity idols and I think 5 challenges total. The thing is that she would never have gotten where she got if it wasn't for her being part of this alliance with Richard Hatch, which was Richard, Kelly, Susan, who's my favorite on the entire show, the truck driver, and Rudy Bosch, who was a Navy SEAL. The 4 of them develop an alliance literally like on day 2, okay? What's so interesting watching the show, okay, which is, by the way, like, it is so low budget, Survivor. I don't think they ever thought they were going to make it past season 1. I mean, literally, like, Jeff Probst is like, at every tribal council, he's like, you can see the what do you call it, the torches of the past, like, you know, eliminated people, and they're just, like, leaning up against the wall, these sad, like, homemade torches. And it's like pouring down rain on them. I mean, the tribal council area today looks like a production, you know, like in Hollywood City or something. And it's like back then, it's literally like out in the middle of nowhere. They had to truck through the woods to even get to tribal council in the mud, in the rain with snakes. I mean, it's not that, it is a completely different show today. The thing is, it's different in different ways. Like today, they aren't given a lot of food. And back then, they were given rice and everything like that. You know, Richard Hatch fishes all the time, and he's always, like, so proud of the fact that he's bringing fish. If it wasn't for their need of food back then, and Richard Hatch having to fish, he would never have won the show. I mean, like, that's just fact, right? Like, if they didn't go on there. And also back then, it wasn't so much about competitions and alliances. It was really about this desire to survive in the wilderness. It was really like, the idea of Survivor was really about Survivor. So Richard Hatch comes up with this idea to do this alliance, and it's going to be he and Susan and Rudy and Kelly, okay? And so they make it to the merge, and at the merge, they just, like, pick one person off after another, and then it comes down, they're the final four, and it works perfectly. It's a beautiful, beautiful alliance. What's so interesting in watching it, though, okay, is that everybody is so negative towards this idea, except for Richard and Susan. It's so negative towards this idea of an alliance. Like, they think it's cheating. Like, they think it's unfair. Susan's even at one point, she's like, families are alliances. Corporations are alliances. The United States an alliance. She's like, she goes, I mean, they defend being in this alliance, right? Kelly, in her final speech, even says that at times, like, she uses this as a plea to get votes, that she felt bad voting people off, and that she didn't want to be in this alliance, that she felt forced at times. And you look back on this, right? When now people are building their resume, they're proud of kicking certain people off. They're actually proud of, like, planning the whole kickoff and they're proud of the blind side. They're proud of the alliance that they built. Well, I built this alliance from day 2 and we stayed together and I had a secret I mean, they're proud of all this stuff. The stuff that really drove these people crazy the first season, like, you can tell it's mentally and emotionally taxing and tolling on them the first season, right? When you go back and you watch Survivor Season 1, like, a lot of them talk about, like, having to vote people off, having to lie to people, having to be part of this alliance, or knowing that the alliance was there and the next one's going to get picked off. Like, I think it's Colleen and Jervis wear shirts. Like, his has a bullseye on it and hers has a sitting duck. And she says to Jeff Probst, I would prefer to be referred to as sitting duck from now going forward. She was like, because I know that I'm going to be the next one voted off. And she is. And so, you know, it's like this alliance works perfectly. It's so interesting to me looking back, though, that, like, and now I'm in season 2. And in season 2, I'm like, I just got past the merge part. Like, I think I'm 2 episodes past the merge. Like, they're afraid to build an alliance on season 2. You can tell, like, out of the gate of season 1, they are afraid to build an alliance. They're afraid that it's going to be used against them. That people are going to say, like, oh, no, bad boy, bad girl, like, you were in this alliance. Like, you were shady. You were a bad player. Like, they're afraid to build alliances on season 2. You can tell. Like, they're really focusing on it just being about the Survivor aspect of the show and, like, who's the best player, who's the best survivor, and things like that. They're fighting together as tribes. What they don't realize is that, in essence, that is an alliance, you know? And so it's so interesting to me where we came from, you know, 24 years ago with this whole, like, anti-alliance idea. I mean, it's really what, you know, Jeff Probst says at the beginning, during season 1, and one of the tribal councils, he says it's really a microcosm for the world. You know, that this show is really a microcosm of how the world really exists and how we survive in the real world and our relationships with people and how we interact with people. And it's interesting when you apply that to the whole idea of alliances. And now we look at our world 24 years later, right? And there are so many, I mean, Susan was right. There are so many alliances in this world that are controlling things, right? And so that other people don't even have a chance. You know, I remember years and years and years ago, this is when I was watching, speaking of another reality show, The Simple Life. And it was when Paris Hilton was, like, real big. She and her sister were going out to nightclubs all the time. This was, like, on the heels of that, right? And I was like, I remember, like, looking up something like, how rich is Paris Hilton or something like that, or the Hilton family, I think I looked up. How rich are they? And they're, like, at the bottom of, like, the top 500 families in the United States or something like that. Or maybe they're not even on there. I don't remember. But I can remember looking at, like, the amount of wealth, like, the top 1,000 families in the United States have, right? And I was like, okay, first of all, I don't even know how many zeros, like, the lowest family, okay? I don't even know how many zeros, like, go in that number, let alone, I'm never going to have any, I mean, I'm never going to be on this list, right? So if I'm never going to be on this list, what does that mean? Like, there's no, like, you can't compete with that, right? So then it's like, what you realize is, you're just in this world to do the best you can to impact the most people that you can, you know, on a daily basis. Because you're probably not going to be on that kind of level, right? And so, and is it really all about money? And then it brings it back to the show again. Is it about money? Is it about how you treat people? You know, at the very end, it comes down to Kelly gets half the votes. I think it's 3 and 3 and 1. Kelly gets 3 votes. Richard gets 3 votes. And the split vote is by Greg, who has them pick a number between 1 and 10. And he swears that it was because, I don't know if this come out later, that's not true, but that Richard picked 7 and the number was 9, right? And Kelly's plea to these people is that she was a nicer person, she knew more about them, she interacted with them. Richard's plea is that he never claimed that he wasn't out there to play a game and win $1 million, right? And so it's interesting, it's very much like, well, what wins in the real world, you know? Does this honesty of playing a game and trying to backstab people and build alliances, and does that win, or just being a better person win? I think if you watch enough of the newer seasons of Survivor, what you know is being a really good person and a loyal person doesn't necessarily get you by. You got to be a little bit conniving in the world. You know, I think it poses a lot of questions of why it's changed through the years. You know, did their greed for money change their necessity to build these alliances? You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I just love watching it from the very beginning. I will say this. It's like one of those reality shows that I love to watch because it makes me so entirely happy. Like, I love watching the show. It makes me so happy. I mean, yes, there's drama on it and people don't get along. I mean, it's like, to be honest with you, the drama in season 1 is probably heavier than the drama in season 46, in all honesty. In season 46, everybody has to play nice, like, oh, I like you, blah, 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 whatever. But in season 1, they don't, lie about it, who they don't like. I mean, they make it very, they're very real about who they don't like, you know? Susan and Kelly get into this argument. Kelly doesn't want to be in the alliance anymore, and Sue's, doesn't trust her anymore and feels like she backstabbed her. I mean, that goes after the show is over. They're still talking about it, and they're like, yeah, we're good. Susan's like, we're good. But you can tell Kelly's not good with it. You can tell she doesn't really want anything to do with Susan again. So it's interesting. It's also interesting that they asked several of these people to come back on All Stars, and they declined to be back on the show. I think the first season really, really took a mental toll on them. Sue gives this speech at the end, okay, when, they could each get up and ask a question, and she compares, she compares Richard and Kelly to a snake and a rat, and that on the island there are snakes and there are rats, and that she compares Richard to a snake and that Kelly to a rat. I mean, and Brian Gumbel even asked her in the reunion, he's like, do you regret what you said? Your speech was pretty harsh. And she's like, no, I don't typically regret the things that I say, right? And that speech is, you can find it everywhere on YouTube, because I looked it up. And all these people are doing commentary on it, of, how she compared these people to snakes and rats and things like that, and let nature take its course, and Richard the snake should eat Kelly the rat. I mean, it's beyond. I mean, they took this so personally back then, right? I think today we look at it, it's kind of it's just a game. I think it's a history lesson. It's very, very interesting to go back and watch season 1. I have to tell you, I don't enjoy them any less because they're low budget or because they're different. On season 1, there's no hidden immunity idols at all, right? There's a lot on season 1 that, on season 46, that there's not on season 1. The challenges, some of them are harder and some of them are easier in season 1. I can tell you that the reward challenges are like hot dogs on a grill, compared to lobster dinners and things like that. So a lot of the challenges are different. Is it Sean that gets to go on the cruise ship or whatever for a night and meet his dad and stuff like that? So some of them are pretty amazing, but most of them are they get chickens. At one point they get live chickens on season 1 and season 2. That's a reward challenge they get, is live chickens, you know? I think that's also another interesting thing from season 1 to the current seasons now is on season 2, Mike kills a pig, and they're it's not just fishing. I mean, he kills a pig, they're killing these chickens and things like that. That's a whole thing that's changed kind of through the course of the years, too. So, I mean, when it really started, it really was a show about survival. And I think it's interesting, and I can't wait to watch it in real time as it goes from the old era to the new era. So anyway, for those of you out there that are super fans of Survivor, I would highly recommend going back and watching season 1 and seeing what you think. I would also like to know this one question. Like, my friend Tanya and I always talk about this, and it's something that they actually ask in the reunion of the first series or season, and I've seen a lot of commentary about it. Like, who is really the deserving winner of Survivor, you know? Richard says in the first season, he says, I saw the sign, like the logo, just like everybody else, you know? Outplay, outwit, whatever, outlast, outplay, outwit. And he was like, and that's what I came to do. It was a game, right? And so, is that really who deserves to win in the end? Is the one that outplays, outlasts, and outwits everybody else? Because so many people constantly say, well, I think this person should have won, or I think that person should have won, or they were a better winner, right? But if they don't outlast, because they're not smart enough to make it to the end, or they don't win all the challenges or enough challenges to keep them there, or they don't throw challenges or whatever they do, that's not outplaying, right? Or outwitting to being smart enough. So what really is a perfect winner for Survivor, you know? Anyway, let me know what you think about all that in the comment section below. I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.